Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bat Cafe. And today I want to talk about the Amazing Spider-Man issue 248, The Kid Who Collects Spider-Man. I discovered this book many, many, many moons ago at a friend's house. A friend of mine who was a comic geek fan collector like myself. And I went to his house, and before I had a chance to say anything, he just took out this book, gave it to me, and he says, "Read this book." And I did read the book, and it was absolutely impactful and wonderful and made me pause and think about life and everyone that I love. Now that's an impact. Written by Roger Stern, drawn by Ron Frenz. Um, this book really is a masterpiece, and it's not just a masterpiece, not just a classic because I say so. And I admit that I do have a habit of reading books, obscure books that no one's really ever read or heard of, and because I like the story so much, I regard them as classics. This book is a very famous story. It's actually been noted by Wizard magazine as one of the top 10 greatest Spider-Man stories of all time. So that's accolade indeed, and I completely understand why this book has been described as such. Now, Spider-Man gets to hear about this kid called Timothy Harrison, who's a 9-year-old child who is supposedly his biggest fan. Collects everything to do with Spider-Man, all clippings, all bits and bobs, whatever you can think of. This kid tries to collect, and his biggest dream is to meet his hero in real life, and so Spider-Man is so moved by the story that he basically goes to visit Timothy where Timothy is living. And of course, where Timothy is actually living is all disclosed later on down the road. In this panel, of course, you just get to see Spider-Man entering into the room and Timothy waking up, and it's a dream come true. So anyway, Spidey and Tim strike up a conversation. Spidey starts telling him about his escapades and what he does on a day-to-day basis. And Tim tells him about all this cool stuff that he's been collecting about Spidey. And it's like a mutual fan society that sort of develops, and they're having a good time, just shooting the breeze. But you know what they say, all good things must come to an end. And so Spidey uh, starts to make a move to leave. But as he does so, Tim says that I really like to know who you are under the mask. I won't tell anyone, I swear. As long as I'm alive, I'm going to keep quiet about it. That should give you a bit of a signal as to what's going on. But anyway, um, Spider Man thinks about it. Initially, he's very hesitant. He tries to say no, no, no. But suddenly, something in him cracks. And he takes off his mask and he tells Tim that, my name's Peter Parker, and basically I take all the photos that I then provide to the Daily Bugle, as part of the Spider-Man coverage. And Tim, to be fair, is pretty cool with that. It doesn't lessen his sort of hero worship of Spider-Man. He's super super stoked that Peter would share this secret with him. So Tim repeats his promise to keep his Spider-Man's identity a secret, and Peter says, "Well, that makes us buddies, I guess." And they hug it out, and there's a little tear that comes out of Peter's eye. And at this point, of course, you think to yourself, "Well, listen, you just met the kid. It's okay. You'll see him again. There's no need to get so emotional." Um, you know, he runs off. Spider-Man runs off after saying goodbye, and there's a very cute, okay, Pete by Tim as Spider-Man departs, and you can sense by this time that something isn't quite right. Um, why is Peter getting so emotional? Why why this kid? Why Tim? But it all becomes very evident and plain to see on the next page. So as Peter Parker leaves the room and is swinging to make his way out of wherever he is, he stands on a wall, and on the outside of the wall is a sign which tells you that this is in fact a cancer clinic. And in the caption, the final caption below, we discover that Tim is suffering from leukemia, and only has a few weeks to live. So now it all makes sense. It makes sense why Peter came to see him, why he was so moved upon his meeting with Tim, and why he shared his secret identity. Uh, well, because he knows his identity is pretty safe. I mean, Tim's gonna die soon. So, mind you, having said that, I mean, Tim is going to die soon, but it is possible also that in the short time that Tim has left, he could call the tabloids and tell everyone that, hey, Spider Man's actually Peter Parker. But of course, Peter just knew. He just had that element of trust. He knew the kind of soul that he was meeting, and he knew that Tim was a true fan who would take that secret to his grave, and that's heavy. That is a heavy tale, man. Really. But now those whole slew of emotions, which you might have been wondering about initially, what's going on? I mean, there's no reason to shed a tear. Now it all makes sense. Now the tears make sense. The disclosure of your identity, it all makes sense. And it's done so beautifully. It's done so well. I think Roger Stern has performed such a fantastic job on this story. And the great thing is that this isn't a masterpiece that's written by the acknowledged greats such as Alan Moore or Frank Miller or Neil Gaiman or all of these other big names. This is Roger Stern, who I knew personally not from Spider-Man but from a series called Starman, which in the late 80s came out through DC Comics. It was Roger Stern and Tom Lyle who did the comic book. Great comic book, by the way, Starman. But I don't want to digress too much. So back to this, and yeah, Roger Stern wrote a very simple story, and it was very very effective. And I think the reason why it's so effective is because it deals with the fragility of our human existence and the bonds that we create in life, and sometimes those bonds carry on, into death. I mean, Tim would take this memory of his meeting with Spider-Man, and Spider-Man would retain the memory of his meeting with Tim for the rest of their lives. Um, so many sort of profound ideas in this one comic book, which I think is aimed for both children and adults. I think a lot of kids would have picked this story up and genuinely sort of been moved after understanding what the story was all about. It's done in such a nice, simple way that even children can truly understand the impact of what's going on here. And I think as an adult, it's just even more hard hitting. I think as you get older and you actually understand this whole concept of life and death and loss, it hits you even harder. So my hats off to Roger Stern for writing this fantastic, beautifully written masterpiece. Um, I think we need stories like this. We need more stories like this that bring us back into our connection with humanity. It's a simple tale, but it's a tale of Peter Parker being a hero beyond just fighting the bad guys and sort of like pummeling people into submission. This shows a hero with real heart. I think that this comic book has really just excelled and sort of transported Spider-Man to a realm of not just a good hero, but a great hero, a great superhero, for all the right reasons. Not just because of his superpowers, and not just because of his ability for witty banter whilst in the midst of battle, but because he genuinely cares, and that's shown not just in him visiting Tim, but in actually sharing with him his greatest secret and genuinely shedding a tear. That's what it was. That caption, that shot where the tears coming down, and this shot over here of standing on the wall, even though he's now outside the room, right? He's by himself, but you can see the weight of the world just bearing down on his shoulders. Spider-Man, Peter Parker, a hero who genuinely cares. Um, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. I love the story, guys. I've read it. I hope you get a chance to read it properly, and not just this summary. I hope my summary hasn't done any sort of injustice to the story. It really is a beautiful tale, and I would highly recommend that you get a copy of it if you can. As ever, guys, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you will, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.